You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump DOJ enters the fray against ghost candidate in bizarre GOP Senate race based on an article by Matthew Chapman. When the ballot becomes a bludgeon. Power, not mystery. This story is not really about two men named Sullivan. It is about who gets to turn electoral confusion into leverage. Their institutions with actual power here are the incumbent senator's political operation, Alaska's election authorities, and now the FBI, the Alaska Attorney General, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. That is where the force sits, in the ability to shape the ballot, trigger an investigation, and define a story before voters ever mark a ranked choice ballot. The convenient panic. Republicans are discrediting Dan Day, Sullivan, a teacher from Petersburg, as a ghost candidate meant to spoil the race for Dan S. Sullivan. Maybe there was coordination. The reporting says investigators are looking into that possibility, not that it has been proved. But the political function of the accusation is already clear. If the challenge looks legitimate, it threatens the incumbent. If it looks engineered, it becomes a weapon for that incumbent's camp to delegitimize the field and redirect blame away from its own vulnerability. The state tried to gatekeep first. Alaska's top elections official initially tried to keep the second Sullivan off the ballot, calling the campaign in bad faith. State courts overruled that and ordered both names placed on the ballot. That sequence matters. The first instinct of the system was not to trust voters to sort it out, but to police the ballot as though confusion itself were a legal defect. When the courts reversed that, the state kept the burden on voters anyway by adding incumbent next to Senator Sullivan's name. The structure of the contest is being managed as a perception problem, not a democratic one. Prosecutors enter the campaign. The Justice Department's involvement raises the stakes, but it also shows how quickly election disputes get absorbed into law enforcement theater. NBC reports that investigators are examining possible wire fraud or a conspiracy to deprive voters of a free and fair election process. If there was coordinated deceit, it should be exposed. But the larger pattern is familiar. Politically explosive ballot questions get converted into federal probes, and federal probes become part of the race itself. The machinery of justice does not just investigate power. In moments like this, it can become one more instrument power uses to frame the contest. Ranked choice, managed chaos. Alaska's special system with a single primary and ranked choice general election creates openings for strategic gamesmanship and also for cynical panic about strategic gamesmanship. That is the point political operatives understand and voters are expected to absorb. A system built to widen voter choice can be exploited by actors who want to narrow the race through confusion, accusation, or ballot engineering. The problem is not that voters are stupid. The problem is that institutions keep designing elections as though voter comprehension were an afterthought and candidate manipulation were a normal cost of doing business. The deeper lesson. This is what democratic decay looks like at the operational level. Incumbents treating ballot access as a battlefield, prosecutors treating electoral ambiguity as a criminal matter, and parties treating voter confusion as a usable asset. If a campaign is being run in bad faith, name the organizers and prove the coordination. If it is not, stop laundering partisan fear through law enforcement. Either way, the deeper scandal is a political system so hollowed out that name recognition, ballot placement, and prosecutorial pressure can matter as much as argument or policy. That is not electoral clarity. It is managed disorder with a legal budget. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Raw Story for today's article. With the automated voice of Arctic, thanks for listening.